Are you one of those asylum seekers who's been waiting patiently for your interview to be scheduled with USCIS? Maybe you applied for asylum, let's say 5 years ago, 8 years, 10, or even longer. Maybe you think there's nothing more that you can do except to wait. Well, I'm here to tell you that this passive approach is destroying your chances for asylum success. I'm going to give you 7 reasons why you should seriously consider using what's called a Mandamus lawsuit right now to get your asylum case unstuck. I'm Brian Manning. I used to be an asylum officer with the government, but now, as an asylum lawyer, well, my law firm helps immigrants all over the country to secure their future in America through asylum. Let me know in the comments, by the way, if you've got an asylum case pending, and I'd especially like to hear from you if you've been waiting for multiple years for that interview. Let me know in the comments how long you've been waiting. All right, based on my experience as a former asylum officer and now as an asylum lawyer, I've always believed that the sooner you get your asylum interview, the better your chances for success. I spent 11 years working for the government's 2 main agencies for asylum and refugee matters, and I adjudicated thousands of immigration applications. And from that experience, and now representing asylum seekers through my law firm, well, I can tell you that there are reasons why the passage of time makes it harder to win. I'm gonna give you 7 specific reasons why your asylum success chances decrease as time goes by, making it pressing that you take action now. But look, before we start, I want to acknowledge a question that I've been getting a lot lately, which is this. So Brian, is it better to wait out the Trump administration? Maybe use the Mandamus lawsuit later after Trump is gone? Well, that's a reasonable question, and I'm going to address it in reason number 7 on this list, called the Trump effect. So make sure you watch this video to the end because that's actually the most important piece. All right, let's get started. Number 1, officers develop a mental block. It was so long ago, you'll be fine now. Now, this is something I've seen both as an asylum officer and an asylum lawyer. You see, officers tend to think that with the passing of time, the danger to you has diminished. The common officer mindset becomes, well, I get it, some bad stuff happened, but that was a long time ago, so why would anyone still want to hurt you now after all this time? They'll look at a case where someone was harmed years ago and think, well, surely those bad guys have moved on, you'll be fine now, right? So this thinking becomes more entrenched with every passing month, let alone every passing year. Officers dismiss legitimate, ongoing fears because of elapsed time. But of course, persecution doesn't have an expiration date, right? Meaning you may well still be in grave danger. Yet officers fall into this mental trap all too often. Okay, number 2. Memory fades. Your testimony becomes less detailed and credible with time. So officers expect detailed testimony about traumatic events. They're going to ask for specific dates, times, locations, and what exactly was said during threats. Now, as a former asylum officer, I was trained to look for this kind of detail. And if someone couldn't remember specifics, well, we were supposed to question their credibility. You see, the longer you wait, the harder it becomes to recall precise details. So let's say someone threatened you over the phone several years ago. Well, the officer is going to want to know, hey, what time was it when they called? What's the very first thing they said to you? The last thing they said? Based on the person's voice, how old did they sound? Did they have a regional accent? Stuff like that. And these details fade from memory over time. Now, officers can deny your case if you keep saying, I don't remember. And critically, the more time that passes, the more likely you are to give different versions of the same story, even though you're not intending to lie. This just naturally happens with the passage of time. Okay, number 3. Evidence and witnesses become harder to obtain, and you won't have time to collect them properly. You see, critical documents may be lost or become inaccessible. Witnesses may become unreachable or their memories fade. And look, most people who applied for asylum long ago submitted minimal evidence, planning to update their file once they got called for the interview. But look, this is not a good strategy. You see, under normal asylum interview scheduling, i.e. where you get your interview organically, let's say, and not from having filed a Mandamus lawsuit, you're likely to get less than 2 weeks between receiving the interview notice and the date of your actual interview. And that's just not enough time to be thoughtful in finding and packaging up your evidence. You can't get documents translated or maybe track down witnesses. But look, when you force your interview through Mandamus, you see, you get months to develop your supplemental documents. For people who hire my law firm, both for the Mandamus support and for representation in their underlying asylum claim, well, we start working on the evidence and other aspects of the supporting documents immediately, and this gives us time to actually do a good job. Okay, number 4, you risk getting an unprepared asylum officer under normal scheduling versus a well-prepared officer through Mandamus. So under normal scheduling, officers get assigned cases with 1 to 2 weeks notice, and officers often don't have much time to review your case file. I've seen cases where the officer got the file the very morning of the interview. Now, an unprepared officer is more likely to be confused about your case, and that's not good for your case. But when you use a Mandamus lawsuit to get your interview, your case will likely be assigned to an asylum officer with much more lead time. They'll have more time to carefully consider the documents in your case. And if you do a good job with supporting materials, well, this is good for your chances for asylum success. Next up, number 5, country conditions may change, weakening your case. Political or other situations in your home country may actually improve, or they may appear to improve, which will lead the asylum officer to determine that you don't need protection. Now, let's take Venezuela as an example. If President Maduro falls, officers may think that political dissidents are safe, ignoring continued danger from colectivos and others who are intent upon pursuing anyone deemed to be supportive of the political opposition. But look, the network of people loyal to the Maduro regime doesn't just disappear overnight, right? There will probably be a period of instability during which it will not be safe for asylum seekers to return home. Yet, asylum officers here may look at a news headline and think, oh, well, things have changed, so this person should be fine now. He doesn't need asylum in the United States. And by doing nothing, you're risking that conditions in your home country could change in a way that undercuts your asylum claim. It's better to move now while conditions are in your favor. Okay, number 6. You miss the window for strong legal representation. If your interview gets scheduled organically, you might have less, as we mentioned earlier, than 2 weeks to find a lawyer. And most lawyers will not take on a case with such short notice. Now, at my law firm, when someone calls with less than a month before their interview date, we can only offer limited representation. Very frequently, we get calls from people with an interview in just 10 or even fewer days. And in those cases, we can only offer interview preparation services. We don't have time to help with the declaration or evidence or write a legal brief, and we likely won't be able to represent them on the day of their interview either. But you see, when you file a Mandamus lawsuit, you can work with your lawyer immediately. You'll already have that relationship and be proactively preparing your supplemental documents and preparing for your interview. Okay, finally, number 7. The Trump effect. Now, approval rates are plummeting and will continue dropping. So this is really the most important point. Approval rates have already dropped drastically under the Trump administration. We've seen this in immigration court statistics, and I'm pretty sure it's happening at the asylum offices, but they don't release statistics. With every passing month, approval rates continue to go down, and I believe it's only going to get worse. If you do nothing and you end up getting called for your interview organically, let's say 2 years from now, well, I think you're going to be facing a much more hostile environment. If you get your interview, let's say 2.5 years from now, even worse still, right? So basically you're gambling and hoping that you don't get the interview for the next 2 or 3 years. And if you're thinking, well, hopefully I won't get called until Trump is out of office, and maybe at that point when he's gone, I'll consider Mandamus. Well, I invite you to consider the fact that we have no way to predict what's coming after Trump. Yes, it could get better for asylum seekers, but it could also stay the same or even get worse. J.D. Vance, who appears in line to take up the Republican mantle, looks to be just as anti-immigrant as Trump. I just don't foresee things getting better under a potential Republican administration after Trump. So when people ask me, well, Brian, should I wait out the Trump administration? My answer is absolutely not. You're gambling with your future and your family's safety. It's much better to force your interview in the coming months rather than wait years and face what will probably be an even more hostile environment with much lower approval rates. Look, if you've been waiting 5 years or more for your asylum interview, we think you're in a good position to have success with a Mandamus lawsuit. You can take control of your case timeline. Act now while you have a chance. At the time that I'm recording this video, we've filed over 200 Mandamus lawsuits and we haven't lost a single one. To be sure, past results don't guarantee future success. Your results may vary. But look, I highlight this statistic to stress that it's an extremely powerful tool. Our clients love it because it works. If you want to learn about getting your interview now through a Mandamus lawsuit, please call us today to schedule a consultation. That number is 713-909-0401. And remember, we help people all over the country, so it doesn't matter where you live. Call us right now to schedule an asylum strategy session so that we can help you to secure your future in America through Asylum. Again, I'm Brian Manning, and it's an honor to serve you in your asylum journey.